brothers, big sisters?
Yes, I was in 5th grade. I was about 11 when Carolyn and I were matched. And at the time, my home life, much like most of my childhood, was very tumultuous. My parents were separated from the time when my sister and I were little. They fought a lot. With my mom being an alcoholic, she wasn't able to be there for us a lot. She wasn't around at all most of the time. And we were never able to completely benefit from a motherly figure or any strong female mentor for that fact. My father, having full custody of us, was incredibly physically and verbally abusive to my sister and I. And so where my parents had failed to parent us and to do their jobs, I had to step up in many ways, not only to try to figure myself out and worry about all the things that most 11-year-olds worrying about, going to school and navigating social and home life. I was having to worry about things like whether or not my sister had clean clothes the next day for school, or whether or not we have food on the table that night. So it was really hard. And when I was in 5th grade, one of my school counselors, she saw my potential, and so that's how I was referred to Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Yeah, so when I first met Nikki, our initial match, I remember my impressions. She was shy, very well behaved, eager to please, a bit unkempt, and sad. I would say sad. But there was something about Nikki. I saw something, a glimmer. And when I reflect upon it, what I was seeing was her potential. Nikki, do you remember our first outing? Do you remember some of the things we did?
I do. So Carolyn and I, when we were first matched, our bond instantly started over literacy. Any kind of books, writing, anything like that. I've always been a big writer. And so our first outing was actually to the Largo Public Library. I had never been to a library before, and I was so ecstatic when I found out that you could check out more than one book at once. Over the years, we have lots of traditions. We love nature. We're always at parks, go to see a couple movies occasionally, and usually ice cream is always on the menu whenever we're out. So why not?
Yes, we love our ice cream. So Nikki and I clicked. We walked, we talked, we journaled. We never were at a loss of words. And I guess that's why we were so good with each other. But while everything was happening so well with us, with our match, Nikki's home life was deteriorating rapidly. Their family was in a very unstable living situation. They were evicted from their apartment. They went to live in a motel room. It was not suitable environment to raise two small girls. And their school attendance suffered, and Child Protective Services intervened, and Nikki and her younger sister were entered into foster care. Nikki, do you remember how your life was and your fears and tears? It was a rough time for you.
It was scary, that shred of independence, that small shred that I had developed, and having to depend on myself a lot, and not only myself but care for my little sister, that was taken away in the fact that when you're in the system, you have no choice but to depend on the counselors, the psychologists, the therapists, the courts, everyone who just comes into your life and is turned upside down. You don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow. I mean, you could have someone come in any day and say, pack your stuff, you're moving here or there, and you have to learn to trust new people all the time, people that you don't even know, who are supposedly out for your best interest. But you don't just believe that. It takes time, it takes effort, and with the uncertainty that came with that, I'll say that Carolyn was probably my one consistency in that sea of uncertainty. Someone who had known me from before all of that happened, who knew not only how I was feeling because of our bond, because of our connection, but also who was advocating for me on the side.
And I saw Nikki's potential, and when you see potential in a child, you want to advocate for them. And so as Nikki moved from a group foster home to a regular foster foster home with a family. I was there at every school, at every new address, with meeting with the guardian ad litem, making sure Nikki's needs that were all being met. So Nikki, talk about your first foster placement.
So, upon being placed in foster care, my sister and I lived in a group home for the first couple of months. And when that 3-month mark came, I remember just waking up one day and my caseworker came and said, "Pack your stuff, you're moving." And so we transitioned into a home where there was a family dynamic, you know? It wasn't like a group home where there's tons of different, like a rotation of caregivers. It was an actual family and not just someone that was going to care for me. It was someone that not only did I have to learn to trust all over again, someone that I didn't even know, but someone that I would have to acknowledge as my family when they weren't. So it was hard to adjust to that type of a dynamic. And I'd say that's probably the point in our relationship where Carolyn to me became more than a mentor. She became my best friend because she knew how I was feeling without me having to tell her, even though I did through my writing and my journaling. That's always been a strong point of communication for me, but she continued to advocate. She'd always be talking to my foster mom about the next step, what was going to happen next, where I was learning to relinquish my worries and my fears and my wrestling with the future. She took that on in a way that made it easier for me. And so 2 years later, after really being grounded and established as part of this family, we kind of had a bomb dropped on us when we became eligible for adoption, and that family had to tell us that they couldn't adopt us. And it's probably one of the hardest emotional uproars that's ever happened, because I had just this vision, this sense of this is where I belong, and for that to just be taken away so quickly, there came a point where I was so tired of being loved and love failing me that I didn't want to be loved anymore. I didn't want to be adopted. I didn't want to transition anywhere else, to have to learn to trust anyone else. And even through all of that, Carolyn was there. She was there to comfort me and to advise me when I needed it, and I did need it. And so after that happened, my sister and I transitioned into yet another home, and there it is all over again, having to learn to trust someone that you don't even know. And my walls went up. They went up harder and stronger than they ever had. And it took time, and a lot of time, and a lot of energy and effort. And Carolyn being by my side really impacted that, because she was that one person in that sea of inconsistency, of uncertainty in the past, that gave me a sense of stability even then, when I really needed it, when I needed to learn to settle and to not worry. And so June 1st of 2017, my sister and I were adopted into that home. And I remember there came a point after being adopted, after my life had finally settled out and I was at peace somewhere, where Carolyn came to me and she asked me, she said, "Are you sure you still want to be matched?" I remember vividly looking at her and saying, "Well, of course we do, because you're the only one that knows me from before." So.
I saw that potential back in 2012, and that potential is still there. Nikki is a 12th grader at East Lake High School, taking AP and honors classes. She's going to graduate in May 2020. So Nikki, what are your plans? What are your goals?
I'm definitely college bound. Throughout most of my life, I've always allowed academics and school to be kind of my outlet, because it was for sure the one thing that I could always control. Not only just the will to work harder and to get better, but like my motivation behind it. So I've always been academically driven, so college bound for sure, and I want to pursue any avenue, be it law, public relations, public policy, politics in the future for sure. Any avenue that allows me to continue to advocate for at-risk children.
paper, don't you think so? So I saw that potential in Nikki. I was a defender of her potential all those years. And look at the outcome. So Nikki has told you the impact that I had on her life, and that Big Brothers of Tampa Bay, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Tampa Bay has had on her life, but she's had an impact on my life. She just filled my heart. She filled my heart over and over. I was uplifted by her resilience, her determination. Through everything that she had been through, she landed on her feet, and she always knew I had her back. So after hearing our stories tonight, I hope you are inspired by what the potential of having the support of Big Brothers Big Sisters to defend the potential of children. So if you would please open your hearts, open your resources tonight, or even in the future, to help Big Brothers Big Sisters of Tampa Bay defend the potential of even more children. And I hope that you will do this tonight. Thank you.